like to have a Pledge of Allegiance. And I'd like this, we have some guests here to lead us in the pledge, the Weeblos from PAC 99. Can I ask the Weeblos to come on up front while everybody stands? All right. Gentlemen, are you ready? Okay, it's all yours. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Before you go away, would you please tell us your names? All right, thank you. How long have you been Scouts? All right. Well, congratulations. Thank you for helping us start the meeting today. Good job.
Thank you.
I actually am going to ask everybody to please stand again for a moment of silence. We've had two members of what I'm going to call our extended family. We had the Tom Flynn, who's chairman of our Board of Finance and a frequent visitor to this board. His mom has recently passed away. And Town Attorney Stanton Lesser, a couple weeks ago, had his father pass away. So I'd like us all to stand for just a moment of silence and keep those families in your thoughts. Thank you. All right, next up. First on the agenda is to consider and act upon the minutes of regular meeting of April 5th, 2017. May I have a motion to accept?
I'll make a motion.
A second?
Second.
Any further discussion, comments, or edits?
None.
No,
We good to go?
we're good to go.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next up, all right, one of my favorite events. We have representatives here from McKinley School PTA to give us a report on the McKinley School PTA's million-minute Read to Feed program. Who's going to take us through that? If you would, please come up to the podium and just state your name and address, and then tell us about this program. This is one of the exciting programs we have in town.
My name is Michelle Gerner.
Yeah.
And this is my co-chair, Hannah Wood. Hi, Gordy. And we are from McKinley School PTA. We have started the Million-Minute Read, and basically our entire student population has pledged to read 1 million minutes this year, which will be ending at the end of May. We are currently over 900,000 minutes already.
Wow.
And the whole program is to teach the students not only to engage them and give them the love of reading, but where the Read to Feed comes in is that while they read their million minutes, we have engaged various community, local businesses who have pledged money towards their million minutes that will then be put towards filling the Operation Hope food pantry. So we are currently at about $4,000, $3,500 right now for what we've raised, which will all be what we will buy all their needs for Operation Hope. So they're learning that their small actions will have a large impact on their local community. And we're very proud of them, and they're almost a million minutes at this point.
All right. Well, thank you. I'm phenomenally impressed with this program at multiple levels. One, because it's the PTA, but also the teachers, the parents, and the students. The whole community is involved with this. Now, this is not the first year you've done this.
This is the first year we've done it with a charitable aspect to it.
Okay.
We have done Million Minute Read before, but now we've decided to take the component of the challenges between the students out of it and make it as a team working together to get the million minutes in order to benefit the community.
I love the team aspect. I love the fact that everybody wins in this. You don't always have competition where everybody's a winner, and you guys have developed a program where everybody wins on this, and I think that's just fabulous. Any comments from the board?
No.
I would like to echo that, having buy-in from so many different people. Did you say it was 900,000 minutes?
Yes.
918,000 minutes, that's fantastic. Did it start at the beginning of the school year? When did it start?
October.
October. Wow. And I don't think you could have picked a better charity here in Fairfield than Operation Hope. So I appreciate your efforts and wish you to it, and hope to hear you again next year.
Yeah, great job to you. Great job to all the kids. A lot of reading. Very impressive.
And please just give an update on how many minutes you actually get through, because
Yes.
you guys shot through the million mark
We
last
did. We'll be
time
ending
around.
it May 26th, I believe is the date that ends. We're going to have a big presentation, which you're
Okay.
invited to. And we'll be presenting to all the students exactly how many minutes they've read, how much money, and how much food we've been able to collect for Operation Home. And also, I'd like to note that the public libraries are helping us in having food drives.
Yes.
Ah, okay.
And some in-kind, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
We
go
had
ahead.
some in-kind sponsors as well, in addition
Okay.
to some local businesses that have contributed.
Great. There's so many good aspects of that. You always look for comprehensive programs that bring everybody together. I think you've done that. I think the McKinley community in total ought to be congratulated both for your leadership, and I'm thrilled that the principal and teachers have supported this and kind of made this part of the curriculum as you go through.
They have been very instrumental.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next up, some additional recognition for the Earth Day Art Contest winners and Fairfield's Earth Day celebration. Mary, Ms. Hogue, are you going to step us through this?
Yes, I am.
All right, so if you could guide us through this recognition, that would be great.
So I'm Mary Hogue. I'm the chair of the Fairfield Earth Day Committee. And, wait a minute. I have a little prop. Hold on. I brought it. I've got to use it. It's our 20th anniversary
All right, wow.
of Fairfield Earth Day celebrating in Fairfield. So I applaud the town for doing this for 20 years and for all the... No, that's okay. You're right in the... But you can stand up here if you want. That's one of our committee members. Peter
Okay.
is one of our PR greats. We have a couple of people that do the PR. So this year, because of our 20th anniversary, we're going to be moving from Fairfield Ward, where we have been for the past several years, to the Fairfield Theater Company, FTC, at 70 Sanford Street. It's next Sunday, April 30th. We are from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And we are also at Sherman Green. I'm looking at Anthony. Yes, we're also at Sherman Green, and we're at the municipal lot across the street, Sanford Street from FTC. So we've got a lot of different locales. As usual, we have 2 venues for live music all day long. We have wonderful entertaining music. We have professionals, and then we have students from the tri-M between the 2 high schools. And hopefully, I'm looking at Kate, we'll have somebody singing her winning song from the art contest at the, and you heard it last year. You were at Ward when you
Yes.
heard our
Wow.
winner sing, and that was pretty amazing, yeah. So what I wanted to say about Earth Day is that what we do for Earth Day is we celebrate all that we've done all year long. So that's why we call it a celebration. And our hope is to make every day Earth Day. And what these kids have done by embodying our theme of if we stand together, we can, is to show how they feel that every day you can do something, a little something, maybe a big something, but every day we work together and we can make the planet a better place. And as you'll see, most of them have the visual arts and the photography, have their winning entry, so you can see that. All of them will be on display in our art gallery in the warehouse. And the FTC is also making the whole day and evening an environmental event because they're going to have an International Ocean Film Festival showing. So the doors will open at 6 and then the films start at 6:30. So if you go on their website, you can get tickets for that. Earth Day during the day is a free event. There's free parking, free admission. We don't charge anything.
All right, just to emphasize, that's Sunday, April 30th is the day you're talking about.
Yes, downtown, right in the middle of downtown Fairfield. Okay?
Now, how do you want to take us through the...
So, for your pleasure,
Okay.
I'm going to reintroduce you to someone you just met who helped with the pledge. Theodore Kepler is our video production in the intermediate level category, a winner for this year.
You're going to hand out certificates if I have this, right?
Yep, I have
Gentlemen, why
them
don't we
now.
step on the other side of the table so we can congratulate the winner? Sure.
Sorry. Somehow I have different things in order. I do have it in order, sorry. That's for me. Or actually, this is, give it to you guys to get. Okay,
That's the first one. Just all say
I'll give it to
congratulations.
you guys and you can give them out. How's that?
Congratulations.
Is Rachel here? I didn't see Rachel come in. No? Okay, and Evan said he's not coming. Okay, well, Rachel Grella won high school literature. Evan DeFonce won middle school literature. Evan had a basketball game, so I know he's not coming. Annabelle Woodward is here.
All right.
And And Annabelle won.
Why don't you stay over here?
You want to sit over there? Annabelle won the intermediate level literature. And Nathaniel, Theodore's brother,
Ah,
won the primary literature category.
a family. There we go. There we go. Congratulations. This is yours. Please just stand over here.
For music composition, which we hope we'll hear at Earth Day, is Kate Warren in the intermediate level.
Okay. Congratulations. Oh, Kate.
You forgot to.
Staying away from politicians is generally a good thing, but here it's okay.
Is Jillian here? Come on over, Rover.
All right.
Okay. Jillian won in the high school photography division.
Oh, wow.
Jillian Gerber, sorry.
Congratulations.
Oh, there you are. Taylor, I don't even know how to say her last name. Trions? Trions. Won the middle school photography. Oh, and I have yours. Taylor's also helping on the committee.
Good job.
Stella Absalon won for photography intermediate level.
Congratulations.
Is Cecilia here? There you are.
Wow.
Okay. I'll have to get your stuff out.
Congratulations.
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 Is Kennedy Carr here? No. Okay, Bella, Kennedy Carr won an honorable mention in the photography section. Bella Mercado, we met earlier. She won the high school visual arts. Is Quinlan here? Ah, there you are. Quinlan Shanahan won the middle school visual arts. Julia Zagar won the intermediate visual arts section, and they have their pictures if you want. And we had a tie on the primary visual arts. So Brendan, this is so big. I held his. This is Brendan's. You want to show them? You want to show them? Okay.
You got the prize. You just had to-
Brendan Lee won the primary, along with Sage Moore, who also tied with the primary. And,
Sage here?
well, Sage is,
Ah, okay.
so
Hi,
we'll,
Sage.
so this is this is our fourth annual art contest, and every year we have a lot of entries, and as you can see, we have a lot of winners. Fairfield is full of very creative, thoughtful children, and I'm really happy that we're able to honor them.
Okay, well, in interest of visual arts, would you guys mind coming over here and standing in front of us and look that way so we can get our picture taken with you? All right. Come on over here, come on. This is political visual arts. All right, you got everybody here? Oh, Sage, thank you. We're okay? You just have to smile. All right? Very good.
One big happy family.
Mine's is out there.
It's like kindergarten. kindergarten on the first day.
Yeah, I remember. Look at the baby.
Here, come here. Cece, look at mom. Thank you. Okay.
You got them all? Thank you. All right, congratulations to the winners again. Thank you very much. See you all on Earth Day.
Give him a minute to split.
Just going to give you guys
Okay.
a chance to comment to Mary.
Okay.
Asked her to stay there, so you can comment on it.
Okay. Oh, yeah, can I have your things on back? Yeah, we'll display them. Bye, good to see you, Leslie. Good to see you. Yeah, but where to put it at? I know. Yes, so
Mary, that
sorry.
was certainly an impressive update, and thank you for sharing all the winners with us. I want to turn to my colleagues and ask if you have any comments or thoughts you want to share with Ms. Hogue.
Mary, great job. Can't wait to see everything on the 30th. Sounds like it's going to be a fun day.
A lot of fun.
Good job.
My Boy Scout group got a booth or a spot for Earth Day this year, so I'm looking forward
good.
to go there. I think I'm going to do some volunteer hours as well.
I like it.
And they're going to be selling plants.
Okay.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, it's a good match.
Very Earth Day, yes.
20 years in a row?
20 years,
All
yeah.
right, so it's just, again, it's Sunday, April 30th, at downtown by the FTC. Great, look forward to seeing you there, and thank you very much for the update, and congrats to all the winners again.
Yep, thank you.
All right. I meant to mention this before. Would you all consider just moving up the Riverfield School
Yeah,
Building
definitely.
Committee?
Absolutely.
Yep. You want a
So,
motion? I'd
if
like
I
to make
might-
a motion to take
Take
items
it
out of order.
Yes, please.
I'd like to move item number 10 to next on the agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. All right, thank you. Mr. Quinn, you're up.
How do you get the vote?
Things work smoother that way, Mr. Quinn.
I'm Tom Quinn, 88 Monroe Street in Fairfield, and I'm the retiring chair for Riverfield. We have our CO. The school has been done. It's been working for over a year now. And the kids and the teachers and parents, I think, have all had a great year working in the new environment. And I got to thank all the committee members, okay, that stuck through almost 5 years on this project. And especially Brenda Anziano, the principal, who without her help, it would have been a lot, probably another 5 years. But, you know, George Kattinger has been the architect of record on this project, and I thank the Board of Selectmen for your support, and as well as all the rest of the boards. I'm willing to answer any questions you have.
Before we go there, this is a votable motion, so to hear, consider, and act upon a request for the Riverfield School Building Committee to disband. May I have a motion to accept?
I'll make a motion.
A second?
Second.
Okay, that item is now before us. Any comments to Mr. Quinn?
The school looks beautiful. I'm in it all the time. I think you guys did an excellent job. Appreciate all the hours the building committee went through to get the final product on the table. I know it was many years and some surprises along the way. So I think it was handled well, and the final product the kids seem to be enjoying.
Yeah, congratulations, good job. I just read that you were under budget by $250,000.
That's correct.
Good job on that. I always like that news. I want to thank you, your committee, Brenda, everyone at Riverfield, and everyone at Central Office and BOE that participated. Great job.
Good.
I'm very happy with the product.
We're very proud of it.
All right, and I concur with my colleagues, and want to thank you for not only the hard work you put on this, but stepping up to help out with Holland Hill next, so very much appreciate that. Any comments from the public? Seeing none, back to the board. Any further comments here? Are we ready to vote?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Quinn, you are hereby disbanded.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you again. All right, next up.
Till next time.
Yes. From the Director of Human Resources, to hear, consider, and act upon the, yes.
6 and 7, do you want to announce, even though they're not?
Oh,
votable?
sorry, yes,
Yeah.
yes. I jumped ahead. Thank you very much. Item number 6 on the agenda would be the first selectman appointments, and this is for information only, and this is to the Parking Authority. Gregory Alprin, Democrat, 130 Lee Drive, and that's for a term of 11/13 to 11/18, and the appointment date was April 5th, 2017. And then also item 7, to hear, consider, and act upon the following appointments to the Burr Gardens Advisory Committee. Tara Backey, Republican, 388 Old Post Road, for a term 11/16 to 11/19. May I have a motion to accept?
I'll make a motion.
A second?
Second.
All right, that item is now before us. Is Ms. Backey here?
Very good.
All right, thank you. Any comments from the board?
Thank you for your willingness to serve. Look forward to seeing your contributions on the committee.
Yeah, thank you for stepping forward and getting involved. We very much appreciate it.
Thank you. I know it continues a long line of family service from you and your husband, and Dr. Backey was on the Historic District Commission for a number of years, and I want to thank you for stepping up to this. Any further comments from the board? Any comments from the public? Seeing none? Are we ready to vote?
Yes. Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations, Ms. Backey.
Thank you.
All right, now, and thank you, Ed, for catching us out of sequence there. Now, next up, item 8, from the Director of Human Resources, to hear, consider, and act upon the appointment for the position of tax collector for Mr. David Kozuski. May I have a motion to accept?
I'll make a motion.
A second.
Second.
Mr. Hibson, do you want to take us through this?
Yes, please, thank you. I'm here to present to you an individual who the town has gone out, has done an extensive search for a tax collector. As most of you know, on September 22nd, Cinda Busher, the town's tax collector since 2012, resigned. She was moving out of state, she moved to Florida, and so in August we began a search. We had put the resume or the job posting in a couple of the local newspapers. We also sent it to the surrounding tax associations, to Connecticut, to Massachusetts, to New York, Rhode Island, and New Jersey. Between the period of August and October, early November, we collected resumes, reviewed the resumes, and then myself, Mr. Mayor, the Chief Fiscal Officer, who the position reports to, Cinda had flown back up, and the controller, Galen Bossi, sat and met with a number of candidates, I believe 4 or 5 candidates we believed were potential fits for the town of Fairfield. We took probably 2 or 3 months bringing individuals in a couple of times, meeting with them, and we selected on January Dave Klazuski. And I'm also here to ask for, it's not on the agenda, forgiveness because, as most of you know, that I'm also a new department head. And since the position was a bargaining unit position, I did not realize that it needed Board of Selectmen approval. So I apologize profusely for that. The way it got caught was we are also in the process of hiring searching for a tax assessor, and we were looking at, and that is the department head position, and we were looking at the qualifications for that, and Bob noticed that the tax collector needed Board of Selectmen approval. So we then went and put this position on the agenda for your approval. So there was nothing done by way of trying to not be forthright with Mr. Kozuski's appointment. In the past, appointments have been extended conditional upon Board of Selectmen approval, and the Board of Selectmen have approved those. But running through Mr. Kozuski's qualifications, he has a master's degree from Central. He's got an undergraduate degree from UConn. He is certified, he has a CCMC designation. He's got 7 years of direct experience with towns of Southington and Berlin. And he is actually one of the instructors in the CCM certification courses. So there's 4 levels of classes individuals need to take to obtain their CCM designation. There is the Introduction to Connecticut Tax, there's the Connecticut Tax Collection, Municipal Finance Administration, and State and Local Government. Mr. Kozlowski actually teaches that 4th level class for them. He's also the co-chair of the CCMC Legislative Committee, and so that position in which he tracks and monitors all legislative submissions to the state legislature regarding tax changes that would affect local tax collection. So Mr. Kozlowski came in. He was very professional. He was someone that everyone at the panel felt was the best candidate for the position, and that was the basis for our offering him the position. Again, I do apologize. The position should have been presented down here. I do apologize for that. But again, that was not done as a way to slight the Board of Selectmen. We did in fact catch it and put it on the agenda. So with that, I hope you accept my sincere apology, and I hope that you appoint Mr. Kozlowski as the tax collector.
Any comments from the board? Mr. Bateson?
Yeah, thanks, Emmett.
Yes, sir.
I accept your apology. That was one of the first things when this popped up on the agenda. I didn't even know. And I saw it, and I know that David addressed
The budget meetings.
our budget meetings, and I thought he was the tax collector at that time. So I think I had sent an email to you and maybe Bob Mayer and a couple other people. It was late at night, might have had a tone to it, and I apologize for that. But it caught me off guard that I was like, ugh, how could this happen? I'm assuming you were involved in the process then.
From a supervisory standpoint, but I was not involved in the detailed interviewing, so it,
But I mean,
So, no,
I imagine
yeah.
somebody from the Board of Selectmen was involved.
yes.
Okay. The only thing that concerns me is, I know we have an issue going on with Sacred Heart.
Yes, sir.
Now, how are we handling this since I imagine Dave and certain others are going to, I imagine this is going to go to court somehow. How are we going to handle Dave's title?
Let me just, in part of justice, without getting into too much detail, and certainly the Board of Selectmen is welcome to an update on that in more detail.
Yep.
In perhaps private executive session because of pending litigation. But we have engaged outside legal counsel, a tax specialist, to represent us in any discussions with Sacred Heart.
Okay, so that would not involve Dave?
It would involve him to some degree, but for
It
the,
doesn't involve this.
It's more
It's not a tax collection issue.
tax assessing issue.
Tax assessment.
That's an
Okay,
assessment
got it.
issue.
Thank
Yes,
you.
sir.
Thank you.
Okay, so what I'm looking for is just clarification of how we're going to handle Dave's title in between the date he was hired to when he's getting appointed by the Board of Selectmen. I understand he's an employee of the town, I get that, but does he officially become tax collector today?
So by my mistake, we hired him as a tax collector. Officially, I mean, he's been acting as a tax collector, but officially, you guys have the right to, you guys are the appointing authority, so you guys will make it finalized, and he will.
Right, I guess for the record, that's what I would just like to air and say that, I imagine that there's going to be other people looking at this situation down the road. I'm under the impression that he's hired as tax collector today, appointed. He's an employee of the town, I don't deny that because he's been hired, but, that's just my take on what's happening. So, I understand what happened, and, I got an email from Stanton Lesser, and, there's really nothing else that we can do. So,
At this point. Mr. Timniak, do you have anything to add?
Well, I do. I look forward to Dave's service here for the town for many, many years. I want to circle back, though, I guess, to the beginning. What role should the Board of Selectmen play in vetting candidates, reviewing resumes, going through the hiring process if eventually we have to approve the person?
So I looked back at what was done the previous tax collector. I looked through that process, and the reality was it was a submission by the chief fiscal officer, who was the interview panel. I think actually Mr. Mayor might have been the chief of staff at the time, but it was presented to the board after the offer had been made. There was a conditional offer made to send and there was no one from the Board of Selectmen on the actual interview panel. So that's not uncommon. I mean, typically what you'll get is an executive session review of the person's qualifications. Here, I did it in open forum because he's already, we've already extended an offer to him at that point. I'm not sure that.
So that's past practice, but I guess my question is that right? Is past practice the right way to do it? Because we're currently going through the process with the assessor's office, and we're tracking where we're just going to get the name of the person who has already been vetted out and is your recommendation, and, I'm assuming an offer is going to be extended. Is the offer going to be extended prior to us voting on it, after? How do we go ahead as a board and basically join the process without our hands being tied? In this situation, our hands were certainly tied from that.
I don't need to make mistakes twice, so I plan on, prior to the interview group making a selection, coming to you with a request to appoint. I mean, as far as whether you guys are involved in the appointment, I think that's up to.
Yeah, I think that one, historically, the Board of Selectmen doesn't have the time to do that. It's, a lot of the interviews are during the day. A lot of the interviews, in viewing both the resumes as well as the people, we bring in the appropriate folks, as we do with other department head positions. We might bring in somebody from outside. We might bring in a tax collector, an assessor from another town, possibly help with that. Certainly, some of our department heads have helped other towns out in that regard. So it's as much as it is the Board of Selectmen job to role to approve that, it's not necessarily the Board of Selectmen's job to evaluate and nominate somebody for that.
Right. So, I mean, I look at it from the standpoint of, we can go through the whole process, and if the board's not involved in the process, the board could say, you know what, we don't approve of this candidate, and what do? We go back to square one on that, in that situation? How would we handle that?
I think that would depend on kind of the rationale for not doing it. And certainly in this case, Dave was outstanding, and reviewing his background, listening to the description that Mr. Hipson went through, that was a thorough process. If we hadn't gone through a thorough process, if finance and human resources hadn't gotten together, hadn't done the extensive search, hadn't looked at everybody, had just gone out, picked somebody, we might say, hold it, there wasn't a process there. So I think that we're a safety net, if you will, and quality control to a certain degree.
Okay.
But I don't think we're involved as a board in doing the day-to-day work on reviewing the resumes, making sure the ads go out, getting that type of thing. And I think it's important, and we owe the taxpayers to make sure that the process done was extensive, was comprehensive, and got us the best available candidate. I think that's the role of this board, to make sure the process was appropriate to get us the best person.
So, and I appreciate that comment. One of my concerns is, though, the charter clearly outlines what department heads are hired by the first selectman and what department heads are hired by the Board of Selectmen. So I think that the people who put the charter together gave it great thought and deliberately separated these positions to include the board for reasons I'm not aware of today, but it sounds like what's in front of us is, hey, business as usual, we're going to go through the same process of hiring a department head as we would any other department head, but the final step is the board approves the person we select. And I just feel like the charter was probably written with a reason why the board was included, especially with these specific department heads, which were clearly separated in the town charter as to the Board of Selectmen versus the first selectman. So I'd like to see the board take more of an active role in the vetting. I think, unfortunately, Dave, you raised an example here, and again, I wish you the longest career possible in Fairfield, and I hope it's the best, but I think that example of what the charter actually says versus what we're actually doing should be taken into consideration.
Yeah, and I guess I'd look at that and say, I believe we are following the charter as it's intended, because it doesn't use the word hire, it uses the word appoint. And I think that's typically what happens at Board of Selectmen meetings. It's also difficult for the Board of Selectmen to be involved because of FOI issues, involved in extensive interviews and meetings during the workday on this, and things that we have to get together and do in public that are just frankly much easier for the Human Resources and Director of Finance to do as part of their daily job.
So the suggestion is just continue to do it. You guys give us a name and the board has essentially to vote for it.
Well, I think
Up or
that
down?
the
Up or down?
up or down, but I think the job of this board is to make sure that, as Mr. Hipson detailed, that there is an extensive comprehensive process, that we're convinced that the process they followed got us the best available person.
How how can that, I see what you're saying, I guess, to Chris's point, how can that, since I don't participate in the process, I guess I would be looking for something that would prove that that person's the best of the, has been deemed the best of what you want to serve. So by just offering one name, I'm not seeing proof of that process. I see your point there. I don't know how to address that, though.
Let's,
Without-
Yep. Perhaps one of the thoughts would be, what if we ask Mr. Hipson to look at what some other towns do? Just to get, just kind of put a framework behind this and see if anybody has a better way of doing it?
I mean, that's fine,
I
Mr.
could-
Hipson.
I-
do you
Yeah, I can
have-
see that before we get into the
And then if,
nitty-gritty
when we
of
look
the
at what
assessor.
some other
Yes.
towns are doing, then come back and say, okay, given we know what they do, given we know what we've done historically, what do we want to do going forward?
But
I'm open to that.
I mean, I firmly believe there's a better use of your time as the HR director than vetting out 169 town charters to see which town charters require the appointment or the board to look into that. I mean, you can call other towns and say, how do you hire it? Was it?
Mr. Timiak, nobody suggested 169 towns get interviewed.
We have to find the chart, this is a charter question, this isn't.
No, actually, I would suggest that we look at how assessors are hired in 4 or 5 towns, comparable towns, and see if there are any kind of better approaches, and then we can look at how we do it. And,
Well, eventually, we're going to boil down to the charter so that the Board of Selectmen's included, regardless of what other towns say.
yeah, nobody's suggesting we're not included. The question is how it might work. That's all.
And to your point on the timing issue of like interviews and, you know, happening during the day and FOI, I mean, that should be up to the board to decide whether we have time to attend the interviews or how we go about separating the FOI issues if they do exist. So I'll leave it there.
Okay. Well, we'll definitely come back and discuss it. So we're not trying to, if that's okay with the board.
That's fine with me, yeah.
All right. Any further comments from the board?
No.
Any comments from the public? Seeing none, back to the board. Are we ready to vote?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations, Dave.
Thank you.
I do apologize.
Thank you. All right, next up, to hear a report on the town's Fairfield Solar and other green energy projects from the Department of Public Works. Mr. Bowman.
I know we promised that you get an update on what we've been doing for the last 5 years. So I try to put it all in one document. And it includes the pictures, so you, those are on the rooftop, no one can see them. So in there you can see the pictures of the buildings where they are. But basically the summary is pretty simple. When we have all the projects that are pending and under construction completed, we'll have 39 solar installations, 2 fuel cells, 2 cogeneration projects, and we're making almost 15 million kilowatt hours of green power. That's 49% of the town's total energy use, and saving about $1 million a year, and like $19 million over 20 years. I mean, that's the summary of it.
Is there, and just to highlight a few things, and I apologize, I don't mean to interrupt totally, but is there any other town you're aware of doing anything close to this in terms of, because these look like huge numbers.
Oh, they are. I mean, I don't think there are towns that have that kind of numbers. But we just have taken advantage of the program that came along with the power purchase agreements and put it anywhere we could. I mean, there'd be more schools still, but if the schools had 20-year roofs, I mean, if the roofs get replaced in schools, we'll have projects there too. And we couldn't do it. And fortunately, we haven't been able to do it independent solar town hall because it's an historic district. And we'd have to put it on the ground mounted because the roofs aren't big enough, so that's been a problem. So Other than that, I think I'm running out of buildings, is what it amounts to.
So I didn't mean to interrupt and
All right.
get you off track. Please continue.
And then we break it down between the town and the Board of Ed. The Board of Ed, who uses 16,200,000 kilowatt hours a year, will be producing 6,900,000 kilowatt hours from, or 43% of its total from green sources. The town uses 14 million, but it's broken into three parts: streetlights, which nothing you can do about streetlights, the WPCA, and the rest of the town. So 2.2 million is used for streetlights and traffic lights. It's 15% of the town's total power usage. But the WPCA
Oh,
uses...
did you skip over slide 3?
Did I? No. Oh, yes, I did. Right, I started, but the town, again, uses 14 million, and we'd be making 8,351,000 kilowatt hours of electricity. 59% of the town side will be generated green power. When we add the asset and energy management plan, which you approved a study of 3 or 4 months ago, we'll be coming back with that. That should reduce the consumption by at least another 1 million kilowatt hours. And if that happens, we'll be generating 63% of our total power from green sources. Consider our goal was 20%, that's pretty good. So again, going to the water pollution control facility, which uses 5.9 million kilowatt hours, will make 100% of its electricity from solar, cogeneration, and a fuel cell. And the cogeneration from both the fuel cell and the cogen burning the methane will provide all the heat for the plant. So that'll be 100% free from both heat and electricity combined power. The town buildings, which use 6 million kilowatt hours, will be providing 43% of that electricity with green power. I mean, 40%, sorry.
Wow.
Now, then you have the pictures of all the installations, and beyond that, they have the chart showing how much they actually have produced, the ones that are up and running, and then for the ones that aren't running, what they're supposed to produce in the future, what we best guess, and what the power purchasing agreement would cost versus the town's cost in 2018 at 19 cents a kilowatt hour estimated. And cogeneration, we already have one at the police station, but doing the water pollution control facility will have 100 kW1 burning methane, 460 kW1 burning natural gas for a fuel cell, and the Ludlow complex will probably have another fuel cell providing the same kind of power there. In the future, again, I can say is that any schools with a roof for 20 years more can have solar, and as roofs are replaced, solar can be added, such Holland Hill or Osborne Hill or Sherman if they're replaced. And additional school parking lots are potential targets also. We're trying to work with the Historic District Commission to see if we can provide solar or cogen at the Independence Hall and Old Town Hall. Work with the Smith-Richardson Clubhouse Committee to make sure that solar is provided there. We're trying to get a virtual net metering plan for another 1 million kilowatt hours, but the the amount of virtual net metering available on an annual basis is so oversubscribed it could be 10 years before we actually get there, but we're putting an application in anyway.
If I could follow up on that point.
Yeah.
Just the virtual net metering to me is very exciting, because it says you can put solar panels over here and tell the utility company to credit it to a building over there. So
Exactly.
that would be the easiest, quickest, fastest way
Yep.
to be able to get power generated for buildings in historic district, because you wouldn't have to do anything to the buildings in
Right.
historic district. Now, is that technically available today? And what are the obstacles in terms of being able to use that capability?
It's technically available, and if we looked at it, we would use it for Old Town Hall, the library, and the police station. They're our largest users, that don't have, extensional solar. But we looked at a place to put it, could be up above Smith Richardson Golf Course, the old farmland up there. It could go there, and we can designate these buildings as the use. Now, you don't get paid as much, you don't save as much with virtual net metering as you do when you put your own in, but it's still a savings. But again, the UI is given a certain amount of money every year to do this, and it's very small. They do 2 or 3 projects a year, and that's the end of it, and there's like 30 projects in line. The legislature this year, they tried to increase that, but it got shot down. I mean, these are not projects that power companies want to do, basically, so they do get paid their distribution and transmission costs from it, so, but not 100% of it. So they feel like they're getting the short end of the stick with these. We're also looking at battery storage. And the state is going to come up with a program to fund some battery storage. If that's the case, we'll probably look at that at the treatment plant or other places too. So. And as far as I know, there's nothing else left.
These are just huge percentages in terms
They are.
of,
So you don't really been doing it for 5 years. You don't really realize it. You add it up, how much it is.
any comments from the board?
I'd like to
Tim
say,
Mann.
our solar dedication or commitment to going green with solar, it's definitely been recognized at the state level. I've been at meetings with you
Yeah.
in the past. Fairfield has been identified. I am impressed. And it's one of the things, like you just said, it adds on itself. You know, you do 3 projects this year, 5 next year, you know, you have 8. It's compounding. Is open space? Is open space still considered open space if we put solar in some areas? Like, is that targetable space?
I mean, I think you'd have to have permission of the Conservation Commission to put it there. But basically, it's farmland, you know, it's not, we're not cutting trees down. It's the old farm, Buster Costa buys farmland. It's like a 30-acre spot there. We just rent it out for $100 a year or something. You grow corn there. They're not doing that anymore. So I don't know whether that's considered as open space or just town land. You know?
I guess that would be my question. I mean, I think I've been back there. It's like an old onion farm. Is that,
Yeah.
that's the area? So if the town's designated that as open space, are we allowed to put
Well,
solar?
we put it in the wetlands, not the wetlands, the old
The landfill, right. But
So-
that wasn't open space, though.
Probably not, but
The surrounding trails
people
are.
consider it open space.
I know, yeah.
So I guess that's, I don't know the answer to that question.
That would be a question for the Conservation
Yeah.
Commission.
Right.
Yeah.
And then.
Certainly, it's passive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not doing anything.
That's right.
But it gets to the point, and I've heard the other side, like, you know, the animals need a place to go too. And I remember hearing that about the landfill, and I think there was,
Well-
whatever issues, let's not rehash.
That's
did
why,
you-
you notice there's no fence around the solar at the landfill. A company wanted to put fence around to keep kids out, but deep, the state said if the fence would have to be 3 feet off the ground to keep the animals, let them get in. So, well, no sense putting a fence up at that point, so. And no one's bothered, so.
When you're talking about historical properties, you mentioned the police station, that's not a.
No,
historical
the
section.
historic was Independence Hall in Old Town, those are the
Yeah.
only ones we have in
So
historic.
the police station's just a difficult roof, or the roof needs to be replaced?
We have a generator on the roof now, there isn't, and there's so many other things on the roof, there isn't any room for solar on the roof there. It's just totally used up with the rooftops, generators, and all kinds of things up there.
And was there ever a solution for Thomasville Middle School with solar?
No, other than the railroad station parking lot.
Okay.
They couldn't find enough usable space on different roofs to do that. They looked in the parking lots, but even the parking lot, the school buses turn around, they would have to be too high. So they just never could find a
But see,
spot there.
that's the exciting thing for me about virtual net metering, because then you could put the panels someplace else and designate Tomlinson or designate any other building to do that. So I think the answer is we'll get there, if we can get there before that, but at some point when virtual net metering works and we have enough capability on it, we'll be able to designate it that way.
Why is virtual net metering more expensive?
Because when you like with power purchase agreement, they're buying it for 9 cents, let's say, or 10
Yeah.
cents. When you're buying, when the UI is buying it from you, they're buying it from you, we pay 7.5 cents to buy power, so they would buy it from us for 7.5 cents. But also, we'd still have to pay them a part of their transmission and distribution. So part of that 8 cents, maybe we have to pay them 5 cents. So we'll save 2 cents rather than 8 cents. Because they are transporting the power from there to here, you know, technically. And so part of the other cost is, you know,
They've got good negotiators.
you know, they don't have to negotiate. They have the control. But they work with us very well on all these things. I mean, they really have.
All right. Mr. Bowman, thank you. Any further questions from the board?
Yeah, I just, quick, we have 39 installations. Does that cover both town and BOE?
Yes. And then it covers ones that aren't built yet, too. I mean, those are approved projects, and some that are, you'll be getting approval on the next
Off the top of your head, do you know how much we spend on electricity in the town? Between,
I think it's like 800,000 or 880,000, something like that.
you're talking
Well,
kilowatts.
No, dollars.
Is that with the savings or without? See, the issue is...
Where?
Yeah, no, I'm talking total town usage, dollars we budget or expend on electricity. Gotta be more than 800. 800 is probably just the WPCA.
That could be, I didn't put the cost in there, just the amount of power.
And I think there are two issues. One is that it's how much we spend today, but it's how much we would have spent if we didn't have this too, I think would be both sides of that question. Am I correct? At least that would be interesting.
Yeah,
I don't mean to put words in your mouth, Mr. Bateson, but
That's what I'm saying, the $1 million saving is what we would have spent. That's the savings, so.
I like the idea, it's just, I see us producing 49% of the total use. I'm saving $1 million. I got to imagine I spend a lot more than that on
Well,
electricity.
yeah, that's 49%.
Of
It's probably
kilowatt
like
hour.
$1.2 million,
Okay.
I'll get you that for next time, I forget what it is.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
I know it's not dollar for dollar.
no, that's right.
And I just want to see that,
I think in the charts in the back, it'll show you the comparison of what we pay versus what, with UI and then what we pay with the power purchase agreement.
right. I mean, if 50% of my electricity is coming from solar, I would expect to see my electric bill now 50% less, but I know that's not the case.
No, it's probably around like 30%, I know, with 35% maybe.
Right.
When is UI scheduled to do the LED lights for the
For the
street
lights,
lights?
2020.
2020, man.
We tried to get them to do it earlier, and they said, oh yeah, as long as we will buy them the depreciated value and the lost revenue for their streetlights for the next 3 years, and that's like $1 million. No, that makes no sense, so just have to wait.
So I think that's one of the examples, like, Fairfield's made such a commitment for energy upgrades and energy savings. Other towns are getting the savings who haven't made the same commitment Fairfield has. I believe, pressure should be put on UI to basically say, hey, listen, we've done almost everything you've said to do, and we're sort of getting penalized by you not jumping us or putting
Right.
us at the top of the queue, because we want those savings, and
Because we're spending 39 cents a kilowatt hour for street lighting
right.
versus 18 or 19 for the rest of the town. Because you're paying rental on all that equipment. Now, about 10 years ago, Conference of Municipalities and a bunch of towns sued before Pure and got the ruling change for Eversource. Towns at Eversource can buy their streetlights from Eversource. UI, you're not allowed to buy them. That was not included. We have to get together with other towns and go sue to get the right to buy them. And we attempted to negotiate. They said, look, we don't want to buy them. We just want to save money. We'll pay for the LED lighting, but the assessed value of what we're trying to buy was $270,000. They said the value was $7 million. That's the revenue they would lose over 20 years. So you can't negotiate that, huh?
I've seen other towns save $300,000 a year.
Oh, easily. This town,
This town would be 400.
yeah,
or so.
I had the numbers. It's almost $400,000 just by going to LED.
And they're not letting us move till 2020. That's crazy.
Bridgeport's done. I think Shelton's done.
Stratford did it.
Stratford, too, okay. But because they replaced our light bulbs, rebulbed us, the last in the cycle, we get replaced last. That's the big hole in our program, right? You're right.
Mr. Bateson.
I saw in the newspaper the schools are starting to consider the parking lots. Is that something that's going to come before this board, or does that just go to the BOE?
No, it'll come through the power purchase agreement if they approve it. We get Board of Education will act on whether they want to do it or not, then the actual agreement, again, it's a power purchase agreement, that goes to the Selectmen. Those numbers are in this calculation too, by the way. I put those in there.
Is that the way it goes? I thought it was our property. If you could just,
It is our property. One of the questions that this board has traditionally asked, if it's on the Board of Ed, as we did with the
Or recreational.
EV charging stations,
Yeah.
has the Board of Ed approved that? Because if we're going to do something on school property, we want the school to approve it. We want
Gotcha.
them to know about it, we want them to approve it, and then it comes here. We could, I guess, technically do it anyway, but
So we wouldn't own-
we tend to cooperate with the Board of Ed
so
on
we
that.
wouldn't only be just approving the PPA, we would be approving the use of the property for that.
In effect.
Yeah, I
but-
think it's in effect, yes, because
Okay.
you couldn't do it without that. And we want to make sure, from a curriculum standpoint and a programmatic standpoint, the Board of Ed, A, knows it's happening and has confirmed that they can, in the same way we want DPW to look at it and make sure we can plow, repave, maintain, stripe, whatever we have to do with those structures in place.
Right, we get police department approval, fire department, everybody's approval.
And
And even when we went, anything we're putting on parkland, we would get the park commission's approval.
yeah. Now, in addition there, I think we've also asked that they go have public hearings so that any of the neighbors and the school community can know what's going on, and any concerns they have can be voiced.
And they've
So
done
that
that
can be
already,
addressed as part of that. The idea is to get all the stakeholders up to
Right.
speed on this, to make sure there's no surprises.
We sent out notices to everyone in the neighborhood, so they knew, everyone was individually informed of the meeting.
And specific, something like fire. Fire isn't up there every day, but we want to make sure if they have to go up there, that they know that this does not limit their access or the ability to fight any emergency situation that may come up. Same thing with police, to make sure they're aware of what this is, and that's not, on a day-to-day basis, they're not involved, but from a stakeholder emergency basis, we need to make sure they're okay with it.
Okay.
So it's more than just a PPA might work for putting on a roof. We start putting it someplace on the land, creating a structure, we need to make sure that everybody's okay with it.
Some of the parking lot problems at the school is the kids are running into all the light poles now, running them over. They're not gonna run these over, these are steel. The car will be towed away. Not that, they won't get affected, so. I think they hit them once, they're not gonna hit them again.
All right, any further questions?
Thank you, Ed, for all your hard work.
Good.
All right, Mr. Bowman, thank you very much, and
Thanks,
great
Ed.
work,
Good.
great work. All right, moving on. Item 11, which is the H. Smith Richardson Clubhouse Building Committee charge to review and approve modifications to the H. Smith Richardson Clubhouse Building Committee charge originally approved by the Board of Selectmen November 4th, 2015, and revised by the Board of Selectmen February 1st, 2017. May I have a motion to accept
Make a motion.
and a second?
Second.
I don't believe there are necessarily any changes proposed to this. I wanted to run it by the Board of Selectmen one more time as we're going out and getting members to sign up or submit applications for the building committee. Just want to make sure we're okay with what this says. What I thought or would propose to the board is that as we look at this going forward, that we have the charge and we keep that stapled to the golf course clubhouse program requirements. So in essence, we have the charge and the specification for the project together. And I just want to give us one last chance to take a look at that.
I just want the committee membership, it's between 7 and 11 as we choose right now. You're good with that, Anthony?
I'm okay with that, yeah.
Did you look at this one more time?
I did, and the only thing...
Excuse me, Mr. Calabrese, if you attend the podium there and speak into the mic.
Anthony Calabrese, Director of Parks and Recreation. I did look it over again, and the only thing that I noticed in the charge that's not in there that you might want to consider is representation from the Parks and Rec Commission itself. The Golf Commission is specifically mentioned, obviously it's the golf course. But Parks and Rec Commission, I know, would like to have, even if it was a liaison or something along those lines, but figured I'd bring that to your attention before you finally vote on it.
Yeah, I think that traditionally, a liaison is certainly not a problem. I think as we identified, and Ed, it was about a year ago, so it was before you were here, but Chris, you were here when we looked at the original building committee docs, when we went through who we put on the Holland Hill Building Committee. We talked about there's a specification in the 1991 kind of guidelines that says that you shouldn't put anybody on a building committee that is also a member of a committee that reviews and approves. Like you wouldn't put
tail
somebody
wagging the dog.
on the RTM who's going to, or the Board of Finance on a building committee. And that seemed to make sense. I mean, it's not in ordinance, we don't have to follow that, but it seemed to make sense at the time. From a liaison standpoint, I think that makes perfect sense, and I would encourage Parks and Rec and Golf to be part of that, but I think that we create a building committee, we want some, I think the concept traditionally has been to have some degree of independence, so they look at this with a fresh set of eyes, and don't have a planned agenda, and they're not beholden to something. That's all.
Okay, I agree with you on that. I don't mind, I got the email today from Parks and Rec asking for representation on this committee,
I think we all did.
nodding his head, so they know about it. Okay, so I agree with you on that. I don't have a problem with them being liaison. Voting member, different issue. You just mentioned, though, the Golf Commission. if you look in the paragraph, it says not more than 11 members, including representation from the Golf Commission. Would you envision the Golf Commission being liaison or a voting member?
Liaison.
Okay.
The TFC we've traditionally had on
As a
building
voting,
committees.
right?
As a voting member.
All right, so, okay,
All
and
right.
that's what I want to
All right,
get
members from the
clarification.
public.
So, including representation from the Golf Commission, maybe we can add in there, behind the Golf Commission in parentheses, non-voting? Or liaison, so that we're
liaison.
not
Liaison
confused?
status.
Because I assume that was a voting member.
Yep. That makes sense to me.
All right, so I'd make a motion to add that then?
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, so you're talking about right after Golf Commission,
Yes.
open paren, liaison, close paren?
Yes.
Sheila, do you have that? All right. Any further discussion on that?
Not on that amendment, no.
Any comments from the public on the amendment and the amendment only? Back to the board, Mr. Timniak?
Yes, so that member, the liaison, doesn't count towards one of the 11, correct?
Correct. Or one of the 7,
Or one of
however
the
you want to
seven.
phrase that.
Maximum 11.
Thank you for catching that. I hadn't remembered that, as it were.
Where the meeting's going to be held?
In a conference room that's available?
To be determined.
Well, as we start to wind up some other projects, that'll free up some conference rooms, and
You want to vote on the amendment?
yes. Back to the board. Any further discussion on the amendment? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Sheila, if you could make sure that gets in and documented. Thank you.
So how do you,
Any
yeah,
further
how do you
comments?
want to handle the email we got today talking about the Parks and Rec members? Do you just not want to include it in here, and we'll just, if we want to appoint them as liaisons, we will?
Yep.
Okay, so we're not going to alter the charge to make that a requirement?
I would think that, we've had issues with requiring other boards to participate, and I will point out the original Ward Roof Building Committee with the RTM that wanted representation on that. And it was, before we were following these guidelines, it was okay to do that, but the RTM members didn't want to step up and do that. I think by allowing it, if somebody steps up and volunteers, we do that. If we make it a requirement, then does that mean that the committee can't go on unless we have that liaison? I think we want to make it open to Parks and Rec, or the Golf Commission, to have a liaison to this, but I don't think we want to require it.
Okay, then I'll revisit that. Do you want to remove it then? Because it says here, the HS, what we just amended says shall consist of. So we're
Oh, wow, yep, it says so. Thank you,
So-
thank you.
I'm,
Yeah, I would, from a liaison standpoint, I think that if it's okay with this board, from a personal standpoint, not to, but I think it's okay to have liaisons from appropriate committees, so they can,
okay, I do too. I just want to make sure that,
and be part of the,
We're
if you
we're
will,
gonna-
be part of the discussions at the table, more than just public participation, where they comment at the end of the meeting or something.
okay.
But I don't think we should require that, and I don't, so you're correct. The simplest thing would be to
Eliminate.
make your amendment eliminating the words representation from the Golf Commission and the liaison bracket we just added.
I think that's what,
And same thing, I would, on shall, maybe the simplest way to say it is may, because even TFC, if we don't get a TFC member that wants to step up and do this, do we not go forward with the project?
Right.
Now, we've always had one, so I don't mean to say it's that hard, but
I'll go with the may. You
if
want to
we
make
just,
that motion?
yeah. Yes, I move that we move change the term, word shall to may.
Second.
All right, thank you. Any further discussion on that?
No.
Thank you for catching that. Any comments from the public on the amendment only? Ms. Ewing, you'd come to the podium.
Hi, Judy Ewing. I go to building committee meetings, and we've never had liaison requirements. It's part of the procedures for building committees, and liaisons are always welcome. And usually the RTM makes a formal appointment. Others are more informal. They've always been allowed to speak and come to meetings, so it's not really an issue. If you require it and they don't come, then that becomes an issue.
All right, so
And we've
this-
had trouble getting consistent liaison support.
So you're speaking in favor of making this a may and not a shall?
I just wouldn't even mention it. It's part of the procedures. I don't
All
think
right.
you need anything to be said about liaisons. They're always welcome, part of the procedures for building committees.
All right,
That's just my opinion.
thank you.
Okay.
Any other comments from the public? Come to the podium and state your name, please.
Good afternoon, Ryan Scully, 241 Lakeview Drive. I am the chairman of the Golf Commission, so I'm here hopefully representing their interests. I would be concerned with taking it out altogether, just to bring that back to the commission. I don't think they're going to be too happy with having the entire word of golf of being stripped out of there of a member from the committee. I do agree, I think may is probably better than shall, though I'm a lawyer, so I think of those things, but, so I do agree that may, I think, is better than shall, but I also had a question for the board as well. If it is changed to may, would that
Yeah,
require?
sir, just for the record, this is typically comment as opposed to
Okay,
questions.
well-
But because of your position, please go ahead.
Okay, it has to do with the amendment, though, so I apologize, but would it require a separate type of process to be appointed as a liaison if it's may instead of shall?
No. Typically, what we've done with liaisons is, historically, from different boards, they've come to me, and I've approved it and called up the building chair and said, please, accommodate this person as being the liaison. It has been a little bit less formal. I certainly don't have a problem with the Board of Selectmen voting on it at any point if we chose, but that generally hasn't been a requirement, and at least in my memory, that's kind of how we've worked, at least for the last few committees.
Okay, great, thank you. Then I would suggest, I would suggest changing it from shall to may rather than eliminating it altogether. That would be better for us.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Any other comments from the public? Seeing none, back to the board.
Yeah,
Mr.
before we
Bates.
vote, I just, Brian confused me a little. All we're doing right now is changing shall to may. Golf Commission, parentheses, liaison
Yeah.
is still in there.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm good.
Mr. Timniak, any,
I'm good.
all right, are we ready to vote?
Yes.
On the amendment and the amendment only. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, the item as amended is now before us. Sheila, you okay with that? All right. The item as amended is now before us. Any further comments? And we did move the whole item earlier, correct, Sheila? All right. So, any comments from the public on the item as amended? All right, back to the board. We're ready to vote.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. And then, next up is item 12, and just on strategic plan committee appointments. I was going to suggest, as part of this item, that we have a special meeting next week to approve these, kind of move it faster. I'm having trouble getting through, talking to all the people that have applied. So as much as I was going to make that suggestion, I'm also going to tell you I'm not going to be ready to.
It's
So
a big list.
Good news is we got a number of people that stepped up, and I think we deserve giving each of them a chance for us to talk to them, either by phone or in person, and that we can kind of make our selections from there. If that sounds okay to you, I'm just going to say that we'll hopefully have gotten through that, and I'll check with both of you to make sure you have, and that we'll look at some nominations at our first meeting in May, I guess is the,
So you're not looking for a special meeting now?
I'm not going to go through all the phone calls between now and then.
I'm
And
not going to argue with you.
So if that's okay, we don't need to take any action on this, I just wanted to have that discussion point, and I would have made that motion,
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
all right? Because I think we've all made a commitment to get through this as quickly as possible, but we also want to get through it properly. All right, thank you. Next up will be the tax collector. To consider and act upon tax refunds as recommended by the tax collector in the amount recommended. May I have a motion to accept?
I'll make a motion.
A second?
Second.
And I believe, Mr. Bateson, in response to your request, we have a little bit different process in that as part of our packet, there was a list of the refunds submitted, so we can kind of review those overall, or just know what's included in that in a bit more detail. At one point, we were signing them all individually. Then it turned out that we didn't need to do that. But I think this is a good compromise or hybrid in terms of still making the board aware of what each of these numbers are. Any further discussion on this item or the process we're using it?
No, I think having the list is better than having the files. in
Okay,
front of
Mr.
us.
Bateson, does that kind of address your?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was looking for.
Okay,
It's just cleaner and simpler.
all right. Then with that, any amendments?
Yes.
All right,
I'd like to make an amendment to change the amount to $9,821.41, followed by a period.
is there a second?
Second.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Aye.
So the item as amended stands before us. Any further discussion on the item? We're ready to vote?
Yes.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Next up, to hear, consider, and act upon any other business that shall properly come before this meeting.
Yes, I have something. It's been a while, and I just want to get a quick update or have a discussion on where we stand as a town with the special election. It's my understanding right now that there's currently a stay in place, and as the town goes through the appeals process, I'd like to know what the stay in place means towards the town and what that means towards the election calendar. So I'd like to hear from our attorney to give us an update on that, if we can.
Okay. Excuse me. Excuse me.
Oh.
Excuse me. Thank you. Is that a motion to put that on the agenda?
Sure, I'll make a motion to do that, yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. That item before us, all in favor of putting that on the agenda?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm not 100% against it. My concern is that we didn't notice it on the agenda, which I think would have given anybody who wanted either to tune in at home or to actually come to the meeting and hear the update a chance to do that. So as much as I think it's reasonable for this board to get an update, I think that it would be more appropriate to have it on an agenda where it's noticed so people know that. But, so I'll be voting against it, but just for the notice reason, not because I don't want an update on it.
Okay.
And then, who are you proposing that give us this update?
Well, I'd like to hear from the town, the attorney who's representing us, Attorney Baldwin, if you can. Give us an update on specifically what a stay means, where we're at with the process.
If we could.
If we- okay.
Mr. Timiak?
Sure.
Mr. Baldwin, if you would, could you first just introduce yourself and tell us who you're representing in this regard?
Thank you, Mr. Tetro. James Baldwin.
Oh, sorry, just a minute. All in favor of, I thought we did. I thought I voted against it. And you voted in
You said
favor.
I'll be voting, but, oh, you
Yeah.
did vote?
Did I vote against it?
You voted, but, so I've got the votes, you just.
It's 2-1,
Yeah,
right?
we didn't raise it, okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
Okay, my apologies. Thank
Sorry.
you for clarifying. Mr. Baldwin, please go
Thank you,
ahead.
Mr. Tetro. James Baldwin. I represent the Board of Selectmen. I represent Mr. Timniak and Mr. Bateson in their official capacities, and I also represent the town of Fairfield. I'm here to, on kind of an emergency basis, because by operation of law, there is an automatic stay which is in place that lasts for 20 days after any judgment, and if there is an appeal that is taken from that judgment, the stay remains in place until there is a final decision on the issue being appealed. In this case, the special election ordered by Judge Bellis on March 16th. A stay is, by operational law, to stop any and all proceedings having to do with enforcing the judgment which has been issued, in this case, the June 6th election, and the election calendar that was issued by Judge Bellis. Notwithstanding the fact that there is a stay in place, it's come to my attention that it's not being recognized by those who are charged with administering the elections, specifically the town clerk and the registrar's office. To my knowledge, I think those are really the primary parties or departments involved. And I also understand that next week is kind of a critical date because people are going to be hired, ballots are going to be printed, vendors are going to be hired, and expenses and costs associated with the special election, which, in my opinion, based on the calendar in front of us, is not going to happen on June 6th. And so I think it's important for the board to be made aware of that. And I regret that the town attorney isn't here to back me up on this. I will say that it's somewhat ironic that our application to the Supreme Court was objected to by the plaintiffs, and that would have expedited the matter, and perhaps the election schedule never would have been interrupted as it now is. So it's somewhat ironic that I'm here to inform the board of this situation. But since it hasn't been discussed or recognized apparently by anyone, I think that it's important that it be recognized by the board. It's been recognized, Mr. Tetro, by your own attorney who represents you in the matter.
Well, thank you for giving me an update on what my attorney knows.
Yeah, well, just today, I'm sure you're aware of this, a motion to remove the stay was filed by your attorney, Mr. Moran.
Yep.
And so that's a recognition, certainly what we call judicial admission, if you will, that a stay is in place. So maybe to save the town the costs and headaches and energy associated with a special election unnecessarily, something should be done about it. Maybe
You mean like not doing the appeal?
Or the election.
Yeah, or the election.
Well, let's start with, Mr. Baldwin, you said you represented the town on the Board of Selectmen. When did that vote take place? When were you authorized to do the appeal?
At the special meeting, Mr. Tetra, which you refused to attend or allow to have posted.
Mr. Baldwin, there can be no special meeting unless I attend, but I didn't ask that. I asked when you were authorized to do the appeal.
It was at that special meeting, which is located in the minutes of the town of Fairfield.
I didn't see anything about the appeal in there.
I don't understand your question.
At that meeting, that action
But what, the
wasn't
meeting that you were
authorized.
not at?
Yeah, the only reason you are representing anybody is because I allowed that to happen, all right? You were given specific instructions by me not to represent anybody. In discussions with the town attorney, we allowed that to go forward so you could represent my two colleagues in their capacities as selectmen. However, my question is, when did the Board of Selectmen vote on you taking action on the appeal? When did the town of Fairfield vote to take action on that appeal? I understand you can appeal on Mr. Bateson's behalf. I understand you can appeal on Selectman Timniak's behalf. My question is, when did you get authorized by the Board of Selectmen to file an appeal?
I represent the town of Fairfield, without question. I represent the Board of Selectmen, without question. If you want to question anything here, Mr. Tetro, you should question the viability and the appropriateness of you having your own independent counsel, quite frankly, because that...
Mr. Baldwin.
That's a violation of all
Answer my question,
principles.
please.
It was at that special...
Mr. Baldwin,
I am
answer my
answering-
question. No, when did you authorize?
At the special meeting.
There was no vote on this board to file an appeal.
I-
There was no vote.
You want to let me answer the question, Mike? You want to let me answer the question?
I will give you this much time. Go right ahead.
How much time?
Go right ahead.
I advised the members of the Board of Selectmen of the roadmap which is likely to occur. As part of that advice, it included the fact that it is highly likely that this will wind up at the Supreme Court. That opinion and that roadmap has never changed. And I was authorized to do everything necessary to prosecute, or rather, in this case, defend the action brought by the plaintiffs, inclusive of any and all appeals. Very simple.
Mr. Baldwin, thank you. Any other questions from the board?
No, I was just looking for a simple update on the stay.
Yeah, so was I, not this, but go ahead.
No, I have, what should the town be doing to enforce the stay? Or what should the town be doing, which we're currently not doing?
The town should stop any and all actions, all proceedings, which is the word used in the practice book, with regard to enforcing the judgment of Judge Bellis until there's a final decision at the appellate court level, or if the stay, the motion to remove the stay, lift the stay, is approved by the appellate court.
Any more questions?
Can we expect that shortly, now that that's been filed?
I believe that Attorney Moran, Mr. Tetro's attorney in this matter, indicated in his application to the appellate court that it may be 40 days or so.
To decide whether the stay is lifted?
Yes.
Any other questions?
So does this board take, are we required to take action to enforce what is already law?
As I said, I regret that the town attorney isn't here. I had conversations with the town attorney yesterday and today about this matter, but since he's not here, I think it might be unfair to him for me to represent what was discussed in that discussion, unless you want to hear it, Mr. Tetro, but...
No, I think that, again, as we discussed earlier, if this item had been added to the agenda and proper notice, then perhaps we could have made arrangements to, for the town attorney to be here.
next meeting?
I think that would be appropriate. All right, any further questions? All right, Mr. Baldwin, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will put down, just for the record, that Attorney Baldwin hasn't talked to me at all, and I haven't been involved in any votes on authorizing the appeal. I've got serious legal questions about the meeting, as we all know, and we've been through that. But certainly not having a public vote on, after the decision on whether to appeal or not based on that decision. On behalf of the town and board of selectmen, I fully appreciate the fact that as individual selectmen, you can file that appeal, and that appeal goes forward independent of what the town or the board of selectmen overall does. And I realize that you hold a majority on the board of selectmen and certainly can vote for that. I just think that not having that vote properly noticed and authorized is a mistake. All right, if there's no other information, items to come before this board, may I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.